Hey everybody, it's PartyElite, and today we're taking a look at the Steam Autumn Sale to pick out some great games from the endless sea of discounts. As always, I like to focus on strategic and tactical games, whether that's real-time strategy and turn-based tactics, or it's more management and simulation style games that still get you thinking. If you have any suggestions of your own, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and if you find something you like through this video, consider hitting the like button. But with no more time to waste on an introduction and with timestamps down below, let's begin. Regiments is currently 35% off, available for just about $20, and if you're a fan of RTS games, and in particular a fan of games like Warno and Broken Arrow, but find them to be a little overwhelming with the level of micromanagement at times, Regiments is an excellent alternative that checks a lot of the same boxes, though do keep in mind, it is single player only. Featuring the classic Cold War Gone Hot setting, both sides are represented with units from the Soviet Union, the US, East and West Germanies, Poland, Belgium, and the UK, giving a great variety of regiments to lead into battle across its 9 narrative operations and its skirmishes against the AI, again, all played in single player, but on massive battlefields of woodlands and cities and open expanses. Despite the reduced micromanagement compared to similar titles, the game doesn't sacrifice much of the complexity that makes these games interesting. For example, the platoon-sized units can be retreated off the battlefield when damaged to replenish them more quickly and return them to the fight sooner than otherwise possible, encouraging you to constantly keep an eye out for such opportunities. Furthermore, battle groups need to be brought in as reinforcements, giving you access to more units of a specific kind at the cost of points, meaning your on-the-fly decision-making needs to be kept sharp. Driving on roads will help you move more quickly from town to town, and that's essential until you need to quickly find cover as you consider lines of sight and ranges of fire, reversing away from enemies to avoid exposing more weakly armored parts of vehicles, for example. Making sure your combined arms are working nicely together from air and land and off-map in the form of artillery support is not just a matter of seeking synergies amongst your units, but it also feels absolutely fantastic. Regiments is great fun, and I highly recommend picking it up, especially on sale. Jagged Alliance 3 is just under $20 at 60% off, and if you're a fan of challenging turn-based tactics games, this one's an easy recommendation, especially if you prefer something in a more modern setting. You're put in charge of a band of rough-and-tumble mercenaries and sent off on a mission to a fictional African nation where things are falling apart under violent political pressure from a local paramilitary group. Starting with a small group who all specialize in their own methods to get the job done, you'll need to hire more and more mercs over time, keeping an eye on payroll as well as their growing set of capabilities through experience gained over time. And you'll also need to manage relationships between them. It's a small world as a merc, and you'll see some friction and friendliness as well from beyond your own personal experience with these people, adding just a bit more personality to each of them to go with the overall campy 80s action vibes. The strategic map has you going from tile to tile on a grid-based map to liberate villages, secure equipment stashes, or acquire various resources to help run your operation. And as you move around this massive map, you'll train the local populace to help fight your enemies alongside your mercenaries and lead them as they defend previously liberated villages from being captured by the enemy once more. The tactical layer is the meat of the game, involving stealth and real-time exploration alongside the brutal turn-based combat. Select which body parts to hit on a target, flip between firing modes to get a better chance of scoring a hit at the cost of potentially doing more damage, and hope to God that the approach you decided to take for any given mission was the right one, and if not, then come back and try again with a fresh take. There are multiple ways to solve any given problem ahead of you in Jagged Alliance 3, and that's what makes it so compelling. The game has some very fun innovations to go with its over-the-top personality, and it's one of my favorite turn-based tactics games in recent times. I can definitely recommend picking it up. Grit and Valor 1949 is currently 30% off, available for just under $15, and this really feels like a gem that went under nearly everyone's radar. Set during an alternate history World War II, Grit and Valor puts you in charge of a special mechanized squad fighting back against the Axis powers. A diesel punk roguelike RTS featuring giant mechs and tiny battlefields, you progress from point of interest to point of interest on the classic map of branching paths, choosing between acquiring additional mechs, getting repairs, and purchasing upgrades and, of course, fighting battles to push back the invaders. A simple rock-paper-scissors system is taken to the extreme as you manage the different classes of mechs available to you against various classes of enemies on procedurally generated maps, and you'll need to take into consideration the various special abilities that are available to you as well. and of course the value of positioning as you look out for high ground and cover or pickups that get dropped off periodically to buff your mechs or unlock new options for the current run. A frantic pace has you constantly considering who's standing where and doing what to overcome regular and boss type enemies alike, and when you inevitably fail your advance, you'll be punted back to HQ to refurbish, refit, and research and try again from the start, just this time with a little more power to help you along the way. Grit and Valor 1949 takes a very simple concept and makes for great bite-sized play sessions that you can keep coming back to over and over again, and at this price point especially, it's an easy recommendation. Expeditions Rome is currently on a massive discount, and you'll have heard me recommend this game over and over again since it first released 3 years ago, transporting you to Rome as it grows its reaches through violent conquest. Your customizable player character is the son of a recently assassinated Roman politician, and in order to protect you from further political violence, you've been sent away from home on what turns out to be quite the adventure, taking you from Anatolia to North Africa, Gallia, and more, leading not just a small band of named companions and procedurally generated soldiers to lead in turn-based tactical battles, but also entire legions into massive battles for the glory of Rome. As you run around these regions, chasing various objectives to move the story along, you'll come across various cities and points of interest to explore in the classic isometric RPG fashion, and quite frequently, you'll find yourself in a bit of a tussle, and when combat kicks off, you'll see some great innovations here, from how equipment combinations provide different actions to the multiple different types of action points, rather than the simple movement and action combination that's so common in the genre. The way combat blends into the strategic layer is excellent as well. Injuries from the battlefield can fester and worsen if left untreated, urging you to return to camp to properly heal them at the cost of potentially losing top combatants for an extended period of time. Equipment is actually used in combat, forcing you to manufacture more at your camp if you intend to take advantage of it again. Thrown pila don't just magically appear out of thin air, for example. Upgrading your war camps also gives you access to a variety of boons and benefits on the various kinds of aforementioned battlefields, and crafting equipment can make a significant difference in unlocking enough strength to get through some of the tougher battles. Gorgeous visuals, excellent writing, and just top-notch encounter design, coupled with some great ideas across all layers of gameplay, make this a top recommendation from me repeatedly. If you haven't already picked it up, this is definitely a great chance to do so. IXION is currently just about $15, and this is probably one of the most compelling narratives I've ever seen in a colony management game set in the distant future and putting you in charge of a space station meant to find a new home for humanity. A mysterious plotline unravels as you travel from system to system, putting you in all manner of danger, both real and perceived, and as all that's happening, you're challenged to maintain a slowly growing population of specialists and assigning them various roles as you build out everything you need to survive in the cold void of space. Build science ships to explore anomalies and engage in various narrative events as your labs unlock more advanced capabilities, and watch as society grows in strange ways in such confined and threatened quarters. Upgrade the exteriors of your station to improve power generation and protection against dangers of various kinds, and unlock additional sectors of your radial structure to expand your living and working quarters, finding synergies between buildings to improve efficiencies and keeping an eye out for overworked people and dangerous working conditions. Light, Frostpunk-esque elements keep you on your toes as people's moods need to be monitored and maintained, but overall, the game looks to make its own mark. On top of the interesting story and the solid systems and mechanics, the absolutely gorgeous visuals and mind-blowing soundtrack make IXION a blast to play. I've recommended the game before, and I can, without hesitation, recommend it again and again. Crusader Kings 3 is currently 70% off, available for just about $15, and this has to be one of my favorite grand strategy games of all time. Whether you're a fan of classic strategy games about leading empires and fighting wars with meticulous planning and micromanagement, or you're more about the kind of game that lets you build a swimming pool and then remove the ladder once everybody gets in, this is the game for you, and I'm not even joking. More RPG than classic strategy game in many ways, Crusader Kings 3 sees you play as the head of a ruling family in the medieval era, taking charge of either a county, a duchy, a kingdom, or an empire, and then pursuing whatever goals you wish to while simulating the times across the old world, introducing all manner of shenanigans along the way. Do you want to find a wife of Amazonian strength and raise a litter of ridiculously strong men and women who lead your soldiers into battle? perhaps you want to challenge Nordic kings to rap battles to win their territory. Or maybe you want to politic and scheme the assassination of your fellow vassals, or maybe you want to band with them to scheme the overthrowing of your overlord, installing yourself or an ally in their stead. Several updates since launch and many excellent DLC have all made the game more and more worthwhile, and it was already worth full price at launch if you ask me. So, if you want to experience a true medieval sandbox where you lead a family to glory or ruin in both grounded and surprising ways while playing as not a country or some faction or some weird idea of a conglomerate, but as an individual human being, Crusader Kings 3 then is an easy recommendation and a must-have. Tactical Breach Wizards is available for just about $15, and if you're a fan of sharp writing, over-the-top action, and a blend of tactical and puzzle-based combat, this is an absolute must-buy at any price point, let alone on sale. Play the role of a magically infused Spec Ops team as you unravel a conspiracy, looking for ways to combine their special abilities and spellcraft to overcome increasingly complex scenarios featuring cleverly positioned enemies and cleverly crafted bosses with special abilities to keep you on your toes. This was definitely one of my favorite games in the genre from last year, but I do want to set expectations clearly here. This is not an XCOM-style turn-based tactics game that sends you into constant fits of rage and mourning, asking you to pray every time you roll to hit on a 99% hit chance. The game is the opposite of that actually, trying to be as predictable and unpunishing as possible, with 100% hit chances always telling you exactly how much damage you'll do or receive, and exactly what the outcome of any given move will actually be, even allowing you to, in-universe, rewind an action if you realize it wasn't what you actually wanted. That doesn't reduce the fun in any way though, as you pursue primary and secondary objectives, finding perfect angles to cause people to knock into each other or fly out of windows, or as you try to figure out exactly who to upgrade and how, as you find the perfect ways in which your curious cast of characters can work together on these handcrafted missions. If you're looking for something serious with a strategic layer that has you researching the next tech level or manufacturing an upgraded scope for your gun for your soon-to-be maimed soldier, this isn't what you're looking for. But if you want a challenging blend of tactics and puzzle with a comedic touch and that special feeling that only fine-tuning an approach over countless iterations can give, then this is definitely what you need. Marvel's Midnight Suns is currently on a massive discount for the autumn sale, and if you were one of the many people that decided to skip it in its early days, I think it's well worth the current price tag, if even just to see what you skipped out on. There are certainly some aspects of the game that I felt dragged it down in-game, and outside of the game, the microtransactions are an absolute scourge, don't even get me started, but fortunately, you could ignore all that and still have a good time with the game. A turn-based tactical RPG, Midnight Suns has you leading the titular Midnight Suns as they get involved in world-saving Marvel shenanigans, featuring the likes of Wolverine, Iron Man, Blade, Doctor Strange, and more, including your own custom character. The RPG elements can sometimes feel like a drag, forcing you to take on side quests and stories and conversations when you really just want to get back into the action because, in my humble opinion, the way the action works is surprisingly solid. When I first saw the card-based combat, I was extremely hesitant, but then as you start to play, you see how the cards actually control and how they determine who can act and how they impact upgrades over time and the acquisition of additional powerful abilities, and quickly it starts to feel good and make sense. Oftentimes, your superheroes are facing off against people that would be non-issues for them to deal with, and in such cases, introducing some systems to keep those fights interesting makes sense, and the cards do exactly that while amplifying the comic book over-the-topness of the game. Finding synergies between abilities, using the environment to your advantage, and taking on some great villains is also just a really fun experience. And it really is quite unfortunate how a few really bad systems here and there seem to overpower the conversation. It seems the narrative out there has shifted slightly over the years, which is nice to see as someone who's been saying it's not that bad actually since the game first came out. So if you're feeling like giving it a try, now at this price point is a great time to take that chance. Before my next two recommendations, both published by Hooded Horse, I just want to remind you quickly that outside of this channel, I am affiliated with Hooded Horse. While they have zero influence on what videos I make and what games I talk about on the channel, I still like to mention this affiliation anytime I talk about a game of theirs just for the sake of transparency, especially since part of the reason I'm affiliated with them is because I like their games and they're a perfect fit for the channel 9 out of 10 times. For more details, you can check out the video linked in the description below, but without further ado, let's continue. Endless Legend 2 just released last week and is currently 20% off. The next 4X game from Amplitude Studios, this takes us back to the more fantastical setting of the Endless series, continuing the story in some ways from the first game from over 10 years ago. Not that you have to have played the first game to have a good time here. Much like said first game, this one has you playing on what seems to be a doomed planet too. As you lead one of 5 wildly asymmetrical factions to hopeful victory, you'll see the oceans recede every so many turns, fundamentally changing the flow of a campaign from start to finish. Islands become continents, and more opportunities, threats, and avenues of access get revealed over time, and this makes a huge impact on what often makes 4X games feel like a chore in the late game. You can never really rest on your laurels in this game. Turn-based empire building has you establishing and growing cities across multiple provinces, and when armies meet on the battlefields, you'll have the option to take direct control of these units and command them in turn-based tactical battles on the very map the rest of the game plays on. Each faction has its own narratives at play, and as is the Amplitude way, each also has significant differentiators to their playstyles. While one can only ever build a single city, others might be able to completely ignore the need for a certain resource, while others still can seek diplomatic advantages unavailable to others. As you spread your influence across the map, you'll encounter several minor factions as well. These can be subjugated or destroyed, and should they join you, their people might grant even more positive influences to your empire, and their soldiers and heroes become available for you to recruit on the battlefields and to head your council to grant you various boons. There are so many interesting moving parts in Endless Legend 2, and the devs have found some really great ways to keep the genre feeling fresh. If you're a fan of the series or of the genre as a whole, I can highly recommend giving this one a shot. Clanfolk is currently 50% off, available for just about $15, and in my opinion, this is one of those underrated gems of the colony management genre, and it just got an absolutely massive update over the summer that compels me to recommend it once again. In Clanfolk, you find yourself in the harsh Scottish Highlands in the medieval era, leading your small family as they try to establish a homestead. Your first step involves picking out your clan, including its composition, and then you race to prepare for the rough times ahead. Get 4 walls and a roof in place before the first winter hits, and slowly uncover more and more historically researched production methods to get you everything from clothing to fuel to food, unlocking more options through doing rather than simply selecting something to research next. Manage moods across your clanfolk, assign them tasks that take advantage of their strengths, and watch your family grow over time. Mourn the loss of loved ones, raise babies into adults, and seek marriages to bring new family members in from other clans and passerbys. Establish a little inn, hire travelers to help around the homestead, and look out for your own barn full of animals, going out to hunt as necessary or otherwise tending to the fields. The recent update I mentioned introduces a whole world to explore beyond your home, giving you an opportunity to send your clanfolk on expeditions to bring back new resources and technologies and more, providing some interesting new considerations and dynamics that didn't previously exist. All that on top of 70 new crafting stations and crafted items to unlock as you learn new technologies and methodologies, from iron crafting to carpentry and more. Clanfolk is a wonderful take on the genre with a lot of interesting ideas that set it apart. Whether you're a fan of these types of games or are looking for a first one to take for a spin, I think Clanfolk is well worth a try. But there you have it, folks. A couple of recommendations from the Steam Autumn Sale from yours truly. If you have any suggestions of your own, again, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below, and if you did find a game that you liked through this video, consider hitting the like button and help spreading the word. If you're interested in more strategic and tactical gaming content, don't hesitate to subscribe, but as always, a massive thanks goes out to all of the channel members and patrons who've been supporting the channel on a monthly basis. Y'all keep us alive and running smoothly. And of course, a big old thanks goes out to each and every one of you for watching. Until next time, cheers.